On a peaceful Christmas morning in the city of Ridgewood, Oregon, Lena Morgan, a 28-year-old woman with a generous heart and a quiet strength, noticed an elderly man sitting alone in the corner of a nearby church. He looked lost in thought, his posture heavy with sorrow. Wanting to lift his spirits, Lena purchased a few small gifts and treats, just a simple act of kindness. But that ordinary gesture would soon lead to a life-altering surprise. Later that day, her quiet holiday was interrupted by a knock at the door. Standing outside were 4 lawyers with a revelation that would change her life forever. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. Earlier that day, Lena had set aside just enough for a special meal at Luciano's Trattoria, her favorite Italian restaurant. It wasn't fancy, but it was cozy, and she had been dreaming about that mushroom fettuccine for weeks. One meal, she murmured with a hopeful grin. One quiet moment to enjoy, just for me. But as she made her way to the exit, something caught her eye, a figure sitting on a bench in the corner. There, slumped forward with his head down and shoulders hunched, sat an elderly man. His coat looked faded and thin against the cold. Tears glistened on the floor beneath him. Lena slowed her steps. Is he okay? Should I say something? She wondered. She hesitated, then gently stepped closer. Excuse me, sir, she said softly. Are you all right? The man looked up, startled. His eyes were red and glassy, and he quickly wiped his face. Oh, I'm fine, he said, forcing a weak smile. Just old memories. Lena sat down a few feet away, careful not to invade his space. Sometimes talking helps, she offered. I don't mean to pry, but I'm here if you'd like someone to listen. The man studied her face for a moment. Then he gave a slight nod. I went to see my son today, he said quietly. And my grandson. I showed up with gifts, just wanted to be part of the family again, even for a day. He paused, voice trembling. They told me they had other plans. Lena's heart tightened. I'm so sorry, she said. No one should feel that way. Especially not today. The old man gave a small nod, wiping his eyes with a trembling hand. Lena sat beside him in silence for a few moments. Then, instinctively, her fingers brushed the side of her purse. She glanced toward the church doors, then back at him. She had saved for that meal for weeks, but now it didn't seem so important. Wait here, she said gently, standing up. I'll be right back. You don't have to, he began, his voice barely audible. But she was already walking away, determination in her steps. He watched her leave, his expression unsure, as if not quite believing she would return. A few blocks away, Lena stepped into a small corner store. The bell above the door jingled as she entered. She walked straight to the counter and picked out a cup of hot coffee and a warm apple pastry. On a nearby rack, a festive Christmas card caught her eye, bright red with gold stars. She picked it up, opened it, and scribbled a short message inside. You are not forgotten. Merry Christmas. At the register, she counted out her crumpled bills and a few coins. The total, $50.36, nearly everything she had. She didn't hesitate. It's okay, she told herself quietly. This feels right. When she returned, the man was still sitting on the bench, hands folded tightly in his lap. Lena approached with a small smile and gently held out the coffee. Here, she said. I thought you might like something warm. The man looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. You came back, he whispered, almost in awe. He reached out with shaking hands and accepted the cup. Lena sat beside him again and placed the pastry and card on the bench. I thought this might make your day a little brighter, she said softly. He opened the card slowly. As he read the words inside, his lips trembled. I don't know what to say, he murmured. It's been a long time since anyone did something like this for me. You don't need to say anything, Lena replied. It's Christmas. No one should be alone today. The man cradled the warm cup in both hands. Steam rose between them, and for a moment they sat in silence. Then quietly he spoke again. I just wanted to feel part of a family again, he said. Even if only for today. Lena turned to him, her voice gentle. You don't have to be alone tonight. Would you like to come to my place for dinner? His eyes widened. You've already done so much, he said. I wouldn't want to intrude. You wouldn't be, Lena replied. Honestly, I'd be glad for the company. He hesitated. Then slowly he gave a small nod. All right, he said softly. If you're sure. Lena led him through the snow-dusted streets to her small apartment located above a used bookstore on Maple Avenue. She opened the door and stepped aside. Come on in, she said with a smile. The apartment was simple but cozy. A second-hand couch with frayed edges set near a scratched wooden coffee table. A small Christmas tree stood in the corner, adorned with handmade ornaments and a single string of uneven lights. The man paused near the tree. One bulb had slipped from a branch. He reached out and gently tucked it back into place. There, he murmured. That's better. Make yourself comfortable, Lena said. I'll get us something warm to eat. As the man settled into an old armchair, Lena moved into the kitchen. She hummed softly while preparing a modest dinner from leftover ingredients, tomato soup and sweet potato casserole. He looked around the room quietly. On the small side table, he noticed a stack of unopened envelopes. Curious, he leaned closer. A red stamp on the top envelope read, "Past due." Underneath were more utility bills, notices, scribbled payment amounts. He sighed quietly and placed them back. Despite everything, she had chosen to help him. Lena returned moments later with 2 steaming bowls and sat across from him. It's not fancy, she said, but it's warm and a little festive. It looks perfect, he replied, voice thick with emotion. Thank you, again. You don't need to thank me, she said, handing him a spoon. Kindness should just be normal. He gave her a long look, his eyes reflecting something unspoken. Not everyone would do what you did today. They ate slowly, the soup warming their hands and bellies. After a while, the man set his spoon down. You've shown me more generosity than I've seen in years, he said quietly. But I couldn't help noticing the bills on your table. Lena paused, her spoon hovering over the casserole. She glanced away, her voice barely above a whisper. It's okay, she said. You don't need to worry about that. I'm not trying to pry, he added gently. But sometimes it helps to talk. There was a long silence. Then Lena exhaled slowly and looked at him. I used to work for a company, Brightstone Analytics. I worked hard, stayed late, always did more than what was asked. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But when I started asking questions about how they treated employees, how they covered up mistakes, I was fired. No warning. No pay. They said I broke some made-up policy. The man listened, his brow furrowed. Did they pay you what they owed? Lena gave a short, bitter laugh. No. I filed a complaint, but nothing happened. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have money. I've just been doing small freelance jobs since, barely keeping the lights on. She looked down, embarrassed. I know I should fight it. But when you're exhausted and trying to survive, fighting feels like a luxury. The man nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. You were brave to speak up, he said. Most people wouldn't. It didn't feel brave, Lena replied. It felt like drowning. There was another pause. You helped me when you had nothing to spare, he said. That says everything about the kind of person you are. They finished eating in silence. Lena stood and began clearing the dishes, but the man spoke once more. You know, help sometimes arrives when we least expect it. Lena gave him a small, tired smile. Maybe, she said. But I've learned not to count on it. Well, he replied, standing slowly, maybe it's time someone proved you wrong. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing, assuming it was just a kind remark. Thank you again, he added. For the meal. For the company. For reminding me that kindness still exists. Thank you for accepting it, she said warmly. He reached for the door, then paused and turned back with a gentle smile. Good night, Lena. Good night, she replied. The door closed quietly behind him. An hour passed. Lena sat at her small desk, working by the dim glow of a lamp. Her laptop hummed quietly as she typed, focused on her freelance project. Then, knock, knock. She froze. It was nearly 10 p.m. She stood slowly, her heart racing. Approaching the door cautiously, she peeked through the peephole and her breath caught. Outside stood 4 well-dressed individuals in suits. And just behind them, Mr. Wren. He smiled softly, holding a neatly wrapped envelope in his hands. Lena opened the door, confused and surprised. Mr. Wren, she said. What's going on? He stepped forward, calm and composed. I hope I didn't wake you, he said. But I needed to see you again. He extended the envelope. This is for you. Lena took the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. She unwrapped it and inside was a check. A large one. A sum that made her knees feel weak. I don't understand, she said. This is too much. Mr. Wren smiled gently. You helped me when I had nothing to offer. You didn't know who I was. And yet you gave without hesitation. But I didn't do it first, she began. Exactly, he said. That's why you deserve it. He turned and gestured to the people behind him. These are my lawyers. I own Wren and Hallberg, a legal firm here in Ridgewood. Lena's eyes widened. You're a lawyer? Retired now, he said. But I still run the firm. And we know what Brightstone did to you. It was illegal. We've already reviewed your case. He handed her another folder, this one with official legal documents. You're not alone anymore, Lena. We're going to help you win. 3 months later, Lena stood on the courthouse steps, a folder in hand and a look of peaceful triumph on her face. She had won. Brightstone was ordered to pay her every cent they owed plus damages. Her name was cleared, her dignity restored. And beside her, waiting in a charcoal coat with that same calm smile, was Mr. Wren. "You really kept your promise," she said. "I told you," he replied, "sometimes help comes when you least expect it." As they walked side by side through the quiet streets of Ridgewood, Lena looked at him and smiled. "You know," she said, "I never thought a small act of kindness would change anything." He chuckled softly. "Funny," he said. "I never thought a paper cup and a card would mean so much to me." They shared a quiet laugh, strangers no more. And in that simple walk, with snow gently falling again, Lena realized something profound. Her kindness had started a ripple that turned into change, a change that gave her life back. And it had all begun with one choice: to care.